Welcome to the June 5th, 2018 regular selectmen's meeting in Berwick. There's all the selectmen here except for Selectman Plant, Town Manager, Town Clerk. There's a Hokey from the transfer station. We have Steve Connelly and Sue Austin from the school department here tonight. Please stand with me and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the approval of our May 15th meeting minutes.
I'll move the minutes as proposed.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Thank you. Brings us to our first public comment. First public comment is 15 minutes long. If you have a comment, please step to the microphone, state your name, address the chair. Thank you, Hokey. See, you're sitting close by, so you don't have to go far.
No, that's why I sat there. I'm Hokey from the Berwick Transfer Station. I just had a quick announcement. We made one change out the transfer station as far as dropping off trash and recyclable. We swapped our number 2 household with number 2 recyclable. So now we got a recyclable on each side of that middle building coming down, middle compactor. So far I've gotten a lot of good feedback on it, no negativity whatsoever. And our number 2 household now is in the big red building, but back toward the back of it. And we're only using that as a backup when the other one gets full. I think we will open it for maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours early on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, so we'll be able to use the other one all day long for the rest of the day, because we did run into a little problem this weekend having that one open and people trying to go up and do their recyclables. So if you can open it maybe for an hour or 2 in the morning, it'll make a big difference. We're going to try it this weekend. But aside from that, everything's been running beautiful.
Seem to increase the traffic flow?
Yeah, it has already, yep.
Oh, good, good. 'Cause that's
Still a lot of people don't know about it, but I've been up there for 3 days telling them, we got one over here now, and it's all labeled. I mean,
Right.
we got signs everywhere. But
Yeah, people have been
just
doing the
don't
same
look.
thing for 10 years.
No, it has gone a lot smoother, and even on the other side where it was getting congested, it moved pretty good.
Right.
What do people do with the leaves up there in the fall?
We put them way back in the brush pile, and then David Doucette mulches them up and takes them.
How do they come in? They come in,
They can
bags?
come in either the leaf bags, the paper bags they can buy, or they just dump them out of their trailer. But if they bring them in paper bags, they got to dump them, because they won't. They can't run that through their
There's chipper.
shredder there.
Yeah.
So we make sure they empty
I'm just
those.
looking for a place to put a 30-yard container to collect leaves. You know, just loose leaves to keep my compost
Jeez, huh?
built up. I'd put a container, if I got a truck to haul it, move it.
We just don't have room for it. I don't know where we put it.
That's the issue. No room.
That's the biggest problem, is just
South
space.
Berwick then, see what they do. South Berwick doesn't remove their bags.
They don't?
No, they're supposed to be all they buy. I guess you buy the bags for the leaves and it's biodegradable,
Yep.
supposedly.
Yeah, if they bring the bags in, they can just throw them right in the brush pile, and David Doucette has no problem with
right
that,
out.
because they do dissolve and whatnot.
Is the swap shop, the secondhand shop, we talked about closing that, only having it open on
I
Tuesdays.
did close it last weekend.
And how did
It
that
looks like
go?
a ghost town down there. Never saw. We had maybe
You have a lot of complaints.
maybe about 5 cars came down into that area, saw the sign on the secondhand shop overhead door, and just left. Because see, they can't drop nothing off either.
Right.
I put right on sign, do not leave items. So,
The town manager and I were talking about it last week. He said when he was there, somebody dropped an old couch off there, you know, and we
yeah,
said.
they did last Tuesday.
Right. Yeah, and, you know, if that's something that we are gonna keep open, I think that, you know, we should have a policy, no upholstered furniture. And mostly because of the bed bug issues. You know, the possibility of transferring those around
Stuffed animals, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
is,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure people figure they can drop it off at the secondhand shop
Oh, yeah,
and not pay
instead
the
of paying
fee.
$10 for it, or
Right,
$10 for a recliner.
so.
But,
is,
No, Sunday was good. My husband and I went and we got in and out, and he even made a comment. It's not that cluster anymore when you drive in. It was a great flow. You guys did a great job
Yep.
marking everything, so kudos to you on that.
We've still got more marking, but
Yeah,
we're getting there.
yeah, well, you've done a great job, so.
We're gonna do some striping and see if people stay within the travel lane, so they don't, and see if maybe down the road, open that up.
We got it striped out here too and swept,
Yeah.
same time.
Once we get our striper, we have to wait till July 1.
For a striper?
Yeah.
For the money.
Our other one died. So
Did?
we have another, we have a new one in the budget.
Did we change the days too? Because you said Saturday and Sunday. I thought we got rid of Sundays.
No,
Effect-
we didn't.
No,
No.
that didn't take
We
effect?
just, one thing at a time we decided.
It
Yeah,
was
we're-
open on Tuesday, it was open today on Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Right, but I thought we were
Closed
open.
on Saturday and
Thursday.
Sunday.
but we had talked about closing it on Sunday and opening on Thursday.
No, I mean the hours for the transfer
Right.
station overall. So it was gonna be what, Tuesday and Thursday, Saturday?
Well, we talked about changing the hours, but we didn't.
We didn't, okay.
We just close it Saturday and Sunday.
Just the
Swap
shop.
Swap shop,
Oh.
okay,
Yeah, just swap shop.
Yep.
all right.
We'll ease into it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, then.
Thank you.
Great
Have a
job,
good
thank
night.
They
you.
do a great job down there.
Yes, they do.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Too bad we couldn't make some money with that swap shop. Offset the cost.
Put a coffee shop in there. we
Yeah.
build it.
I know, right?
Is any more public comment? There are none. We have no public hearing tonight. Is reports of committees. BCTV doesn't have a report tonight. James did give me something for the Envision Berwick. Envision Berwick has changed the meeting day to the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. If you are interested in joining, come to the town hall and talk to James. The Great Falls Park Kickoff meeting was a big success. Maps of the project can be found on the Envision Berwick Facebook page. The subcommittee will meet again on June 14th. There's some maps on the back corner of the wall over there for people to look at. And they started doing a little more in-depth of looking at it. A prime cleanup day is coming soon. We will invite community members to come help cut some of the brush that has grown up at Prime. More information will be available after Envision Berwick's next meeting on the 12th.
Why
we're gonna go
are
in-
we doing that?
We're going in cutting the brush around the building?
I'm not, this is through the Envision Berwick, so
You better tell
it's
them.
If
volunteers.
they want to volunteer, that's their business. But
Right, these are
Yeah,
volunteers.
this is all volunteers. We're not going in there.
We could find someplace else to have them volunteer. I'll get this guy in, all right.
This is organized by Rick
I know,
Vandenberg.
that's okay, yep.
Yeah.
By Rick Vandenberg?
Yeah.
He gets paid to work for the owner, so maybe he can, I don't know, it just seems to me to not be right. You figure-
When is it supposed to be?
Coming soon.
Coming soon, yeah.
Yeah,
We have to
they'll
talk to
have- They'll have
Mr.
more information after
Probably
their
waiting for
meeting on the
Mark Cahay
12th.
to make his big pronouncement when he's gonna come, and we'll get in there and have to cut it right away.
Yeah, no, we'll talk to him first,
He's a bum.
so.
It says, a few of the prime stack bricks were shipped to Bow, New Hampshire to see if the prime bricks can be engraved. This is they talked about using this as a fundraiser, taking some of the old bricks from the stack
Yeah.
and engraving them. And I guess there were some questions about whether the bricks are solid enough. So
Would they?
So they shipped them to Bow to have them
Oh, we haven't
analyze
got the
it.
results back
I
yet?
guess not.
I bet you they do.
For any questions, comments, or suggestions, please message Envision Berwick on their Facebook page. let's see, he also included the prime bricks.
How much
Alright.
are they a brick, do you know?
I don't know. I haven't been that involved with the Envision, project for a while, so, 'cause I'm not up onto it. And Envision Berwick is looking for someone to take the lead on the ice rink project. We have and can supply the needed materials, we just need someone to set up the rink and coordinate uses and maintenance for the season. If everybody has any questions or wants to volunteer, and get in touch with James through the Envision Berwick.
One comment about BCTV, they taped 2 police public hearings on drugs. It was very informative, and it's up online now. You can see it on the webpage. They did a good job, didn't have a lot of
Public hear-
attendance.
All the 2 things that the police department did
Yeah,
down here. Oh,
on
yeah.
heroin and the drug addiction.
Yeah.
But it's worth listening to. They did a nice presentation, and
Sure.
hopefully it's helpful.
That brings us to appointments, presentations, and other guests. Is Mr. Steve Connelly, Superintendent of the Schools.
Steve, where did you say those are posted?
The on drugs?
Yes.
Yeah, it's on the BCTV site.
BCTV? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Good evening, how are you tonight?
Good evening.
Graduation is this Friday.
Yay.
Great weather coming up. We won't be indoors this year. Last year was my first indoor event, and it actually went great. I was pleasantly surprised. I'd like to just first of all note to you that I am wearing my honorary Good Rider bracelet made for me by Lacey at Knowlton Elementary because I was on bus 35, missed a Puffer's ride in the morning, and apparently I behaved quite well. Parents would be proud. So the budget presentations that happened during the school board meetings, those can be seen, just to inform folks, those can be seen online at BCTV. Thank you to Terry and Maureen for joining us most Thursday nights. And also the board minutes are always available at msad60.org. The budget validation referendum, the vote on the school budget is this coming Tuesday, June 12th. In Berwick, I have that listed as 8 to 8, okay? And Lebanon is 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And North Berwick is also 8 to 8. So, and your votes happen right here at Town Hall, right? Okay, the annual report, I hope you've all had an opportunity to, this is Jody underneath here, but let's just pretend it's the Noble Knight. Hope you've all had an opportunity to get a look at that. And if you haven't, it's electronically, it's on the district homepage. If you look down to where it says mission, the next thing it shows this picture. Right to the right is a link that you can click on, FY19 budget report. Okay, so the total projected budget for 2018-19 is $41,390,414. The state, according to the Essential Programs and Services, accounts for subsidy in the amount of $20,453,340, which is a little less than 49.5% of the total, and the local contribution to that is $19,120,648. The net increase to taxpayers this year can be seen on the expenditure and revenues page in the back of this booklet. That represents a 5.63% increase, which is, I haven't brought you any budgets in the past that have been over a 3.91, and this year is the 5.63 is substantial for us. And I'm going to highlight some of our cost drivers this year that you may have already been either through Foster's or checking out the town meeting and so forth, had some ideas about these. Special education, we have new employment costs. Just the employment costs alone are an increase of $583,000. There is the child development services that works with 3- and 4-year-olds. So when students come into the school at 5 in kindergarten, we know that some of those students have active services provided for them. It could be as small as speech and language services, or it could be substantial programming, very high needs. And what we are seeing is that in 16, 17, we had 18 students come into kindergarten with CDS cases. In this year, 17, 18, we saw 22, and next year we have 40 coming into the schools. And a number of those, I believe a dozen, are going to need the services of our highest need program settings, which is a lot of one-on-one services. We're going to be adding an autistic spectrum disorder program to the list of services that we have. This will be the second one. Seems like a 7-year cycle. 7 years ago, we added one. Now we've added one, and we'll see what the future holds. So we know that our special education costs are an extreme driver. Also,
And there's no, Steve, excuse me, there's no, what does the state help us on that? Is there, that item,
yeah.
does the state help us on specifically?
So from the federal level, we get a local entitlement dollars.
Student or just lump sum?
It's based on a student count and student profile, the kinds of services and so forth, but it's a 2-year lag behind at best. So the students who are coming in to see us this fall, we
Won't
won't
see
have
for
any
2 years.
assistance for that
That's like
program.
my receivables.
So,
Well, no, it's a substantial jump. It really, I
Yeah,
mean,
it doesn't
it's
make sense to
substantial.
me.
yeah. Yeah.
So, before you brought that up, you said there are some wage increases? Who gets
So the
wage
total, not wage increases, but when I
Ask.
think about the kinds of programs, because the ones I'm talking about are just the incoming kindergartners. The programs that we are aware of that we're going to need to have in place for next year that are currently not in place. If you look at, okay, I'm going to need a certified teacher to do this piece, and I'm going to need 3 ed techs in that, and it has a cap of 11 students by state requirement. And then in this program, in this behavioral piece, I'm going to need a staff person, I'm going to need. So when we figured out what all the roles were and where our caps were, according to state and federal guidelines, the programming change just in new employment, not in any raises for people in other departments and things like this, came to $583,000. That's our projection.
Now, what about raises for teachers? Haven't, put 2 daughters through college and get master's degrees, and seeing what that costs and seeing what they get paid.
Yeah.
It's pretty poor.
Yeah, so that's, so a teacher coming out, I don't have the sample contract in front of me, but I'm gonna just give you a ballpark number. Somebody coming out of college on a bachelor's level, the base is around $36,000. So it's not, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It does make things challenging early on.
Quick, rich scheme.
It's not.
Is it ever gonna be?
No,
Is it
no.
ever gonna be a survivor,
Yeah,
above a poverty level?
yeah, so.
25,000, right? Or
So
something like that?
in some cases, there are some positions that are so hard to fill in the state right now, like those high need special eds, like certain science courses, certain math courses, that the state may allow districts to pay an incentive to get people to, but it's $3,000, $4,000, $5,000.
I just feel teachers should get paid more than they do. And I feel strongly about that. I mean, for what you invest in their education, it's a long time paying off
Yeah.
for what they get paid.
In the draw to the profession, it's not,
lousy, 'cause
it's
you're not
not
paid
an
enough.
easy, yeah, it's not an easy sell
No. I
to
mean,
say to somebody,
It has to
you have to
change.
really enjoy what you're doing.
You gotta pretty much be willing to live just a little bit above poverty level. When it comes right down to a single person making 50 grand a year, and time you can pay your taxes,
Yeah, I would say somebody coming out from a 4-year degree program,
yeah.
the typical person entering a workforce after that point is going to make more in other fields than they are going to make in education.
Oh, yeah.
So that is a problem for us, but it's as much of a problem as it is for us in this part of the state. It's a much more significant problem in other, because they can't, their salaries aren't as comparable, aren't at the level ours are. They're less, and it's a harder draw to say, because sometimes there's not a lot to do in the winter if you're not very much an outdoor person. So it really makes it hard to draw some of those programs. The mill rate this year is at $8 in 17-18, I shouldn't say this year, is $8.19 per $1,000 of property valuation, and it is taking a significant jump for the 18-19 school year, an increase of 32 cents per $1,000 in valuation. That's unheard of, and it's set at $8.51. That property valuation, coupled with a rise in property valuation, that change is $545,000. Career and technical education. You may be aware that SRTC and Sanford High School are opening a new school this fall, and we have 2 satellite programs. Marshwood has had 1, and we've had 2 for the last 17, 18 years. Those programs will be moving back to Sanford High School. And so when the programs originally started, the statute was that the DOE doesn't like the term reimbursement, but let's call it holdback. So the first 2 years, the MSAD 60 taxpayers paid the full cost of those satellite programs, because when the statute currently reads, when the program ends, or 2 years after the program ends, you continue to receive the funds that were held back. The new legislation just introduced at this legislature says upfront costs paid to technical centers, no reimbursable, no holdbacks. I very much support the idea that if we're going to have new vocational programs, upfronting the cost is the way to go. But I also think that you have to pay your debts, pay what was due, because that cost for us is a loss of $216,000. And the fight is not going to be between Noble Schools and Sanford, like, hey, you have our 216, what are we not going to pay you for? I mean, that's not, the disagreement for me is with the DOE and the legislature for supporting that. We'll lose 216 this coming year, and then a year out from that, in the 1920 budget, we know we'll lose 86,000 for the second year out. So, unfortunate. And then the fourth factor is system administration. So districts are, they weren't required to participate in regional service centers to regionalize some services, but if you opted to join a regional service center, you would receive less of a loss towards system administration than if you opted not to join a regional service center. So we've been working with RSU 21, which is Kennebunkport, and Arundel. I believe it's Arundel too, yep. So we've got 27 districts that have come together for parts of it. One is for food service and buying power, and the other one that we're working on is on custodial supplies. So we started out with some easy things that people could say, can you save money in these sorts of ways and enhance our buying power? And we're looking into some other options, like hiring I'm talking with people about, in York and Cumberland counties, about hiring a lobbyist to see to the needs of the districts in the furthest southernmost part of the state, because I don't think that those needs are being met. Not when legislation like the career and technical ed, it only impacts 4 school districts in the state. Marshwood and Noble are 2 of them. We're half of it. So I think we need more. I think we need people to do some writing for us and to be up there in Augusta a lot. I was probably in Augusta 10, 12 times, maybe 15 this winter, testifying, meeting with people, and performing some committee work on behalf of the Superintendent's Association. I can't take that much time. I can't be up there to do that. It makes things more difficult here. So if we opt to join a regional service center, then our loss will be $50,000. If we opt not to join a regional service center, then the loss would be $131,000. So it would be an $81,000 additional loss. Now here's a nice little wrinkle. Taxpayers have to vote to approve to join a regional service center. Taxpayers, please help us not lose an additional $50,000. And the other good thing about it is that the way that the legislation is written, if you belong but opt not to use a service, you still are considered a member. So if we join and we're on the board, and I serve on the board for the Regional Service Center with other superintendents from the area, and we decide not to participate in the food, not to buy, not to participate in the custodial buys, we're still not going to lose that $81,000. So it's kind of interesting.
Please explain to me
Oh, no, Tom,
the
don't do
logic behind joining a service center
Yes.
and losing money. I thought
So-
the idea was that we would join together and save money.
It's a really interesting plan called Lose Less. Because the idea is,
And whose idea was that?
the money that you lose, you should be working with I think the idea is you should be working with your regional service centers to combine enough services so that you offset any losses that you have. It's not realistic at this time. Our district, for instance, we already have up to, it's been up to 8, I think it's 6 positions right now that we, in administrative lines that we organize with other districts.
Right.
And so I'm saying, anyways, so I'm not sure. I think it's just lose less. And I'm all in favor of losing less.
Well, it seems to me like if you're joining a service center to make things more efficient, you should be rewarded, not punished. And just losing less is still being punished.
I agree. I like your thinking.
It,
Because these 4 factors right here are 1.394 mil. Almost $1.4 million on those 4 things. And so that's why I'm talking to you about a 5.63 difference. Excuse me. See if I can organize my pages. So you'll notice on the vote on the 12th that there are some separate articles. Adult education is always a separate article. That is, the total budget for that is slightly under $415,000. The local is slightly more than $250,000. The rest of it is state subsidy, registrations, and some offset that we're using some fund balance. So that'll be Article 17. I skipped Article 16. This year there is a new article. Food service has always been under the same articles as the rest of the school budget, regular instruction and so forth. And this year the state is required people to pull that out separately. So if people are wondering, hey, why is this in here separately? It's just a requirement from the state for reporting. That budget is $1.443 million. And the district contribution to that budget is $126,000. Overall, our free and reduced lunch percentages have dropped to 34% this year. So we're doing a lot of work to see, are we missing people? Are people just not willing to file and so forth? And we're not exactly sure why it's down to that much. If I compared it to the change in the property valuations and so forth, or change in job rates and things, I don't quite see a connection to that.
What's it normally, sorry, Steve, what's it normally, the percentage?
Which one?
For the reduced lunch, the rate?
We have been at 38% over the last couple of years, and for instance, in this year, as of April, Noble High School was at 32%, Noble Middle School 35, Berwick Elementary 36, North Berwick Primary was at 30, and Lebanon was at 38. Lebanon was at 50 3 years ago, 50%. Wow. So 50 to 38 in 3 years, that's an amazing change. I mean, if you said, for instance, that a giant industry moved into a town, you could
Right.
probably see that, but I don't see something that's an indicator that leads me to that 12% change. Yeah.
More
Okay.
people working.
So also, in Article 18 is about grants. It says, if we receive grants, can we spend those? That's a typical article. And it also lists, Article 19 is the regional service centers. It says Southern Maine Regional Service Center. That's just the title for the one we're in. We'll receive $81,000 and be able to use those funds. We just will not receive the extra $50,000 that we've been receiving. So please support the Regional Service Center. This year, so I've got a few notes just to share with you, just some update kinds of things. Culinary program. If somebody looked in the booklet and they said, wait a minute, he just said those satellite programs are moving back, and yet I see in the expenditures, I see culinary at $88,483. And then in a revenue, I see culinary at same number. Yes, so it's a zero, it's in there. My discussions with Sanford superintendent have been SRTC might not be ready to fully open. And then a few months later, they get some updates and maybe it can. Wait a minute, maybe it can't. So right now we're at maybe it can't. And we're planning on hosting the culinary program for the first semester. And continue to host that at Noble High School. I'd love to see it stay for a year. I think middle of the year change for Chef Kuchar to have to set up a whole new kitchen, and I'm not sure how that's gonna work out.
What happens to all that stuff that's at Noble High School now?
That's Noble High School property.
But what, if the kids are all going to Sanford,
Yes.
what will,
Some of it's, a number of the pieces that are there are shared property anyway, so it's already things that are used in our regular kitchens. The dishwasher, for instance, is
Oh,
a
I
shared
see, yeah.
property piece.
same
Some of
thing
the,
with woodworking and all that type of thing, automotive?
yeah, some of the ovens and things that we have will just expand our operations at the school. So, we've got good use for it. There is, the fund balance. So in the fund balance this year, we were very concerned about a number, over 6%, let alone the 5.63, and thinking this budget looks like it could be in a 6-something range. So what we did was we took about $570,000 from the fund balance and said we will dedicate that to this budget for the 19 school year. The difficulty in doing that is we don't have one-time expenditures to pay in this budget for these things. It's going to be staffing positions and offsetting mill rates and things. And when I do that, what do I do the next year out? So it's going to create a hole in our 2019 budget. So I'm concerned about that, but I think it's a necessary situation. Fortunately, our health insurance, our drafting budgets were at a 4% increase, and healthcare this year came in at 0% increase. So that is a savings out of our draft budgets of almost 150,000. So we took that off the fund balance that we were planning. So now the hole that we'll have is about $420,000. Still substantial, but much more workable than 568. In Lebanon, you'll see a thing that talks about an owl's nest project. It's very similar to the North Berwick portable, the cottages that we built. We're going to do this. We're going to build more. It's going to be approximately $50,000 a year for 5 years, so about $250,000 for the 4 classroom spaces. And the state over the next 5 years will reimburse a total of $110,000 of that cost. So we're going to drive that down to about $140,000 worth of cost. And then the material that the facility we've constructed as an asset for the district can actually be separated and moved. That will help to offset the lack of space in Hanson right now, and the fact that, I'll get into it in a little bit, but Lebanon Elementary School is going to be an issue for us. Actually, I'm going to get into it right now. Lebanon Elementary School is a wooden stick-built school. sitting on a foundation that rises anywhere from 4 to 6 inches in the wintertime and shifts. We've had numerous issues with water. We've had damage to the substructure, which we repaired a section of that this year for $17,000. Had to put in some new pads, some new footings, replace some rebar and concrete. And the structure is viable. However, it's not something like Noble Middle School that we've been working on for two rounds now, 2 phases. It's not something that is a good investment for the future of the district in school facilities goes. I would anticipate in the next 6 to 10 years that Lebanon Elementary School would need to be replaced. We are currently redoing the wells in Lebanon. They have to be replaced. They're not going to pass. So we're making sure that those are large enough to accommodate future plans, so we won't have to spend money twice. We're also currently redoing we needed to redo the septic system, and we're doing the same thing with that. So we're thinking well down the line.
And there's no room here to move the elementary school to any of the schools here in town? Between Northborough
No,
and
I'll get
Berwick?
into that too. So let's talk about Huzzy. So at Huzzy, right now we have a need for an additional classroom wing probably in 2 years. So not the 18-19 school year, but the 19-20. So if you think about walking out behind, it kind of looks, if you were looking down on top of it, looks a little bit like a big Pac-Man. So there's an open triangle there. If we enclose the small area as an indoor courtyard, and then we enclose that with a single floor structure, we would gain probably at least 3 classroom spaces out of that, possibly 4. So that would provide us some of the options that we need. It's not only for the regular education classroom, but it's for some of these special education classroom programs that we need to include. Out of the 40 students that I was talking about and the dozen who need high needs services from CDS, the majority of those students just happen to live in Berwick, so we're going to build the program here. Less transportation, less time. They're not kids who wants to ride on a bus for a good length of time so they're kids that need as short a ride as possible. So we'll be looking into that. So the Owl's Nest project is this year. The second year out is the Huzzy project. Also at North Berwick Elementary School, their classroom spaces are okay. It's the offices, their entire office is half of the space that you're sitting in right now, from the secretary's office to the principals, assistant principals, and the conference room. I'm not, half of that? Yeah, oh, and the nurse, yeah. It wasn't acceptable, in my view, walking through the school. Probably when that was built in '86, I would have said, this isn't gonna work. So the offices, conference room, cafeteria could use expansion, and some of the globals still do not have. They happen in the cafeteria, the music, for instance, the band program. So you run 3 lunches, and you lock the cafeteria in around your band schedule and your lunches. Guess what? It drives your entire schedule for your school when you have to get that in like that. Because band can only happen here and here. So outside of these sections, and you end up actually building a schedule around that. So that's a phase we'll be looking at. That is a small project. Noble Middle School, however, phase 3, we're looking at locker rooms, fitness room, asbestos abatement, remaining asbestos abatement, main offices, guidance, the school resource officer space, band and chorus, the stage, library, upstairs, the entire library section, and while we're at it and working on making it a 21st century learning commons, bringing it, not just updating the plant and making it viable for the next 30 years, but also turning it into a facility that provides educational opportunity for kids who are going to be graduating in 2025 and 2026 and so forth. And the last piece is a little bit of an unusual topic for people, Noble High School. Noble High School is 17 years old. That's not bad at all. Except when you find you have leaks in a gym wall and you realize when you take the siding off, there's no vapor barrier and flashing. They didn't flash windows and they didn't put vapor barrier underneath. So we found that in one section, that's 30,000. We found it in another section, that's
What did Harvey
30,000.
Construction say?
Pardon?
Did you call Harvey Construction?
So you have, what you have is a clerk, every district, when you have a project like that, you hire a
Clerk of the
clerk of the
works.
works.
Yeah.
And the clerk of the works signs off on behalf of the district for everything. That particular person is deceased, there's no, in timeframes, and there's no way to go. We've looked into what's the opportunity to go back and say, look at this kind of construction. I can certainly provide feedback on the certain business end of it and postings and so forth to say, this is what we've found. Think twice before you use a particular firm. So we found that this area doesn't have it, this area has it, that area over there doesn't have it. So what we've got to do is, over the next few years, anticipate spending $30,000, put that into each budget, and work our way around the school and find out what sections have it and what sections don't.
Unbelievable.
That's not the words we used, but okay. So we've got some projects that, we're falling behind in a few things. Steve and I have lamented a little bit about this. How about paving projects, Steve? Yeah, I've seen your list, heard your list. Paving projects for us too. We're looking right now, we should have a fix in the next couple of days on where we think our fund balance, our surplus is gonna fall. So what we're trying to do is between that date, this week, and June 30th, get those in play and see if we can clean some of those up and get them off. Because if I put it off till after July 1st, I'm using next year's budget money, and I'm already dealing with so many overages in next year's budget. Also, we're looking at our fleet, our bus fleet. We have over 50 vehicles, vans as well, and minibuses. A quarter of our bus fleet currently qualifies for replacement according to state regulations. So they're 10, 11, 12 years old, 12 years old. They're in good shape, they're passing inspections, they're roadworthy, but they still qualify, and so we're saying, all right, they're at that limit. How much money do you put in? How many times do you send buses out for work that we can't do within our own shop with our mechanics, particularly heavy-duty body work underneath? So, unfortunately, the state right now is hitting districts with buses that are 16 and 17 years of age. So that's not viable for us to wait 3, 4, 5 years with some of the buses that we have. And they're hitting buses that are in the half-life, 5 to 7 years at the state level with a project in Limestone. It's 7 hours. It's 7 hours by bus or more to send a bus up there for an inspection, come back, there's another 7 hours. Then to take somebody up there and send another driver. I don't even have spare drivers. I have just the drivers that we need.
Why do you get
So-
the bus up to be Limestone?
Oh, it's at what is that, Loring? What was it, Loring Air Force Base, or what's the?
Where
And
they
it's-
rebuild stuff?
Yes, they do body work to take buses that are 5 to 7 years.
I know, with the MBTA.
Yeah, so the engines are good, but they're having undercarriage issues because of the brine on roads. So they're refurbishing at that point to allow further life. But, it makes no sense I've communicated with the state to say, I bet there are
Just have
plenty
it
of
shipped
buildings.
out. Just have the bus shipped up, get a low bed come in, put it on
I
a
got
bus.
a better
and-
solution. How about they build a second, if this is such a quality program and it works so well, build one in the southern half of the state.
Yeah, they're using existing buildings up at the airbase.
You know what? Brunswick has some of those.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could pick some places. I knew this place called Prime Tanning. They had some locations, right? I'm not kidding. I mean, I think of some of the local places and say, yeah, we can do this. I drive by a warehouse in Waterboro that's closed. I'm looking at that going, that's long enough for a bus. So anyways, we've got some fleet work to do, and we should be replacing now for the next 5 years that are 4 and 2, 4 large, 2 small. But for the next budget, we have 1 large and 3 small in. One of the small buses that we had this year in the beginning of the year was totaled. And so even though we received the money for it as a revenue source from the insurance, I couldn't spend it because it would drive up your expenditures over what taxpayers approved. So I had to put it off for the second year. With the increase in special education numbers, we've seen an increase this year alone as 9% more students coming in with IEPs in place. And the students that we're going to be seeing next year, we need more small buses. And I need more drivers. So we're going to go with 1 and 3, and then after this, we'll look to get on a 4 and 2 cycle, hopefully. The other interesting thing is they're talking about doing away at the state level with CDS and having those services provided in schools. I like that thinking. There's a little bit of a problem. 3 and 4-year-olds have to be in a restraint system on a bus. We have 4 buses right now that have restraint systems. I can't send buses everywhere to pick up these 3 and 4-year-olds in the regular route. I'd have to have specialized trips, and I don't have more drivers. I don't have those buses. So we got to figure that out.
Would it, that would be, do you feel your costs are better controlled by repairing the buses yourself? Or is it,
Yeah, so we do a lot of the work, the maintenance on the motors and so forth, and on some of the systems that run the length of the bus, and the electrical systems and so forth, and the exhaust. We do that work all in-house. The minor body work, we do that as well. The bigger stuff we send out to Mix, and he works on those for us. But, so we added a little bit more to our expected expenditure for sending buses out to get some work done.
do you think it's a savings to not send everything out?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. We definitely think it's a savings not to send it's very specialized work, and you have to have certain licensure to work on buses.
Right.
And so the cost is not like saying, I'm gonna go to Arundel Ford for $100 an hour. These costs are substantial.
Okay.
So we're seeing good savings on the use of our mechanics. We have 2. So last thing for me is, and I'm sorry, Steve, if I'm taking too much.
Good report.
Oh, go right ahead.
All right. So student enrollment, that's been a back and forth discussion. Where does it stand? I saw a really nice presentation that James Bellissimo put together. I saw it on a Facebook slideshow on Town of Berwick's growth. He's been very helpful with me sharing what neighborhoods or what developments are in the works, what's not in the works. So thank you for connecting me with him. That presentation accurately cites the student enrollment for Berwick. And the thing about it is, though, that it represents what the state of Maine says is your statistics for funding purposes. It doesn't get into what your actual enrollments are. And you might say, well, that can only be off by about this much. I'm going to give you an example. Back in 2002, there were 1,300, almost 1,400 students in Berwick, according to the state funding calculations, 2002, so 16 years ago. This year, it's the same resource cites that there are 1,288 Berwick resident students. And so it looks like a crazy, that's quite a drop if you think about that, from 1,394 to 1,288. What happens is when the state uses your enrollments for calculation of funds, they use averages. They take, for our 2018, this school year, that the state says you have 1,288 kids from Berwick, they take our 2015-16 October enrollment and our 2016-17 October enrollment, data that's 1.5 to 2 years old, and they calculate an average based on that. Now, on one of the slides that I saw from James, he had to the right, he had something that said in text there that the actual current enrollment is 1,340 students. So there's a 1,288 and there's a 1,340, and he's right. That's exactly what the new state documents that's called the fancy little ED 279, it says you've got 1,340 students that we're going to be helping to pay a portion of for the next school year. Our enrollment as of today, Berwick students, 1,390. You know, once again, the 1,340 came from an average of October 2016 and October 2017.
You know, what kind of brain dreams up something so stupid? Why don't they take what it's supposed to be and use that as a real number?
So it would seem like when we talk to the state about we need actuals, and the state, the response from the Department of Education is, if you average it over 2 years, instead of having a spike 1 year and then, you know, that fluctuation that can hamper you, when you average it out over a 2-year period, you'll have more of a moderate swing from year to year. So yes, that does in some cases, but when you have any growth, it's a losing model.
It's a losing
Yes,
model.
exactly.
Right, it should be, you should be able to call them up and say, this is what we got, this is what we want.
Right.
This is the dollar amount.
So are you I need you to go to Augusta and I need you to take a seat in Augusta. You and Tom just go win some
It
seats and
just
let's
doesn't
talk
make any
about
sense.
this.
I mean, it makes no sense of how they
Yes.
figure this stuff out.
Not that I don't certainly appreciate the work that Beth and Jennifer and Karen are doing. I know they're
Does that
fighting
make sense to you?
the same battles.
It's ridiculous.
So it really doesn't, you know, it's kind of, so what happens, back in 2009 to today, there's a change of, because 2009 was kind of like the bottom of the decline. It was a kind of a rapid, and now it's shallow getting out of it and growing. So even though we're only about where we were in 2002 altogether, the low point was about 165 kids less. And so the numbers of classes, for instance, at Huzzy Elementary, represented that. There were 18 and 19 sections of classes in regular education. And there was one special education class, and there were no ASD, the autistic spectrum disorder classes. Next year, coming in, we'll have a total of 26 classrooms, and we'll have the ASD class, and we'll have a split regular ed, half special ed, high behavior need program. So the change in the number of classrooms is represented by a couple of things. One, the school board has worked very hard over the last 8-9 years that I'm aware of to equalize class sizes across all 3 towns. It gets a little tough with North Berwick because let's say they've got an enrollment coming in the door of 28 students into first grade. Are you going to have 128 class of first graders? Nope, you're going to have a class of 14 and a class of 14, and let's see what happens with the enrollment. If it drops off, maybe you'll do a combined K1 or something like that, or a 1-2. But if it only goes up another student, 2 students, you're talking about 15s. Well, when you have a class, when you have a grade that has 6 classes in it, you got 1 or 2 students, 3 or 4 students, even 6 students doesn't really throw your classroom count off as far as how many classes you need. But it does start to build up your levels. So the school board has been very cognizant of that and has worked to lower it so that there's good parity, equalization between the 3 towns. And then the change since 2009 adds a few classes, and then the special education needs adds a few classes. So now, fortunately, with Mr. Bellissimo's contact, am I saying his name
Yeah,
correctly,
you
his
are,
last
actually.
name? Thank you.
Bellissimo.
I was hoping I was. That, I know about the 2 8-building units, the potential for the 2 bedrooms over on Old Pine Hill. And then there's a 16-lot subdivision in Norman Court. So we're able to think about, okay, what's coming up, what could happen? There's some others that are kind of future sort of things. Are they going to happen? What's going to happen around prime tanning? What's going to happen with the 90-unit on Blackberry Hill that has to go back before the DEP and your planning board and so forth? So one of the things that I would just ask about, and just to see where your thinking is has the town ever thought about working with the state, because you have to go through a state process for it, but considered impact fees for education? Because the new houses and bringing kids in is a great thing, but the impact that the schools and the towns feel, I'll have it now, but the cost won't come in. The cost is later. So anything to possibly help offset that.
What's a typical impact fee?
So the only example that I had a response on, I put that out to some other towns. I heard a response from a town in Cumberland that's $425 impact fee. So when people are saying they're buying a, this $300,000 house, and they're looking at with 3 bedrooms in it, and they
They should go by bedroom.
Yeah, well, see, that's one of the
That's how it should
considerations
go by.
some do. And so when they're looking at, that one happened to be the 300,000 that the superintendent was talking with me about was, I think it was 520, 525, 550, I forget exactly. I mean, $300,000 and 525 is not gonna get somebody to say, well, the heck with this, I'm not moving to that town. I'm sorry,
no.
Steve, I keep looking right through you here with this post.
Well, we have impact fees for building. and
We
then
have
you're
impact
saying-
fees right now that go to education, or go to recreation
Recreation
and open space.
Yeah.
Say that again?
Recreation and open space
Open space. Oh.
is,
And I already have complaints from builders about the cost.
The starter for building?
Yeah, no, it hasn't.
Apparently
Yeah.
not.
Oh, it can't be,
Well, I was
they're
gonna
not
say,
that
it-
big anyway. How much is
it-
the, I mean, what's it, $100 now instead of nothing?
No,
Oh,
no,
it's more than that.
no, I paid, oh yeah,
yeah.
at 4 bedrooms, yeah, I paid enough. Yeah, it was, I mean, it was, a hit, but
Yeah,
I mean,
so
you
it's
gotta pay it.
just something to think about. I mean, it's like everything else. It comes from taxpayers, and things aren't easy as they are. Taxes are not an easy thing to pay. But, just my question to folks.
no, absolutely.
What kinds of thoughts do you, or is there something that I didn't hit that you wish I did?
No, I think you're just basically supporting the growth and the fact that we need to focus on that and making sure that we have a pulse on it, because depending on what happens across the street, I know everybody's like, oh, growth is great, growth is, but putting workforce housing, and how's that gonna impact the schools, because we're paying as homeowners the taxes, they're renting, it's a big difference.
Well, the landlord's rent.
Good point.
The
Well, right.
landlord's paying the.
Yeah, but the tax
Taxes,
revenue
but it's
received
not
from that is
anything,
not gonna
it's
cover.
not anything that is
Not
per
like
cost
individual
per-
homeowners.
Correct.
Right.
And even if it was individual homeowners, you're always behind on trying to
Right.
catch up with
Oh,
the,
yeah,
And it
it's
doesn't
very hard
cover
to
the
stay up with growth.
cost, per child.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Cause it's, we're looking at, they put 200 apartments in, it's gonna be about 80 kids impacting the school. And they say, oh, workforce housing, then why do you need 2 bedrooms?
That wasn't our last conversation we had last week.
Yeah,
It wasn't 80, it wasn't.
no, it wasn't that many.
You weren't here. We had a meeting with the planning
That's
board.
what the developer that I'm working with on the housing authority, who has put developments in all over the seacoast, is saying. And I said 200 apartments, and I can have
Because we're
him come.
talking 1 and 2 bedroom apartments.
Why do we need 2 bedroom if it's workforce? Why aren't we doing studio and 1 bedroom?
What Mark Kahaya is planned is 55 and older. It's gonna be a good part of it. The other part is workforce housing, which is gonna be just 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and then the rest will be at
Condos.
Market.
market rate,
He's gonna sell
yeah.
condos there or something.
But that development, those 200 units, that's spread over 5+ years. He won't be able to do that as quickly as everybody thinks, and his plans are really way out,
We'll
15
notice.
more.
He's about 6 months behind
So
schedule.
Yeah, he
basically,
is.
we're just gonna
He's
have a
stretching it way
residential
out.
downtown with no commercial.
No,
No, it's commercial downstairs.
it will be commercial.
It's commercial on the bottom floor.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, no.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Anyway, sorry.
Write him a
No,
skating
it's just
letter.
very helpful to,
No, I
so
think
some
growth
of the
is-
things that you're talking about are really helpful
It's
to me, and
making a
when
difference.
Steve talks
Yeah,
about
the-
a potential time frame, it gives me something to add to the planning wall that we have in the
No,
office.
'cause,
It-
I mean, I have concerns about myself staying in Berwick, because this is gonna impact, you know, me as a taxpayer, my kids all attend school in Dover. They're at private schools. So I stayed in this
Come
district
and
for that.
visit me, let's talk.
I'm telling you,
could
I'm
put an
huge, I'm
impact fee.
concerned. I'm very
We could
concerned
put an
for the
impact fee on
taxpayers.
soon, so when he does start renting those apartments, we can get impact fees out of him.
Yeah,
That's something we could
This
do
is
right
gonna
off.
generate, just for what we have for impact fees now, quite a bit of money.
Yeah, we could add another 500 to it,
right, exactly.
for the schools, anything to help us out.
The meeting Mark alluded to is we've started meeting with the planning board, the selectmen and the planning board,
For this project.
well, for all of Berwick.
Oh, okay.
Looking at our growth.
Yeah.
And with all kinds of options with looking at, including moratoriums, you know, restricting it in certain areas and things. So, you know, this is something that we are looking at now and, you know, trying to get a handle on is, because it is a concern. Is, you know, is, unfortunately, it seems like, you know, people talk about, you know, we want people to move into the center of town where the services are, but the statistics show that everybody wants to buy on the outskirts of
That's right.
town.
Who the hell wants to be in downtown Berwick?
Well,
You want
I mean,
space,
I don't wanna be
Right.
in downtown
Right,
anyway.
exactly.
They built the
Largely-
apartments, I mean, so, you know,
It's largely
I
a
like to have a
rural
veggie
community,
garden.
you want space, right?
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like, for crying
Well,
out
that's
loud.
where the growth is occurring, is in the rural areas.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
Where
and
people
so
wanna
I-
be,
I
yes.
have real sharp differences with Thomas.
Right. Yeah. Is, when the legislature ended their session, there were some bills pertaining to school funding that
Holy
weren't
cow.
taken care of. Where are we with that?
Nice lob, Tom, nice lob. LD 1869, which is the school funding piece, that's $1 billion ticket sitting out there. We're not in a good shape. I just emailed this morning to our legislators to request, to encourage the them to talk with their peers about going back into session. Because right now there is, according to one of the representatives, there is no discussion
I
about
thought the
pulling
governor
people
asked him to
back.
come back in a session.
So my conversation with Karen Garish today, electronic conversation was that she's heard nothing from either side of the aisle about coming back together. And my concern about that is you're setting a precedent saying that, I don't care who's in the governor's office, but you're setting a precedent saying the governor's office will now have the option to take the authority to, it's gonna be ceded from the legislature to the governor's office to make this decision without seeking their input.
Their input, the people voted them there.
I mean, the legislature,
We voted
those
them
voters,
there,
those
and
people.
they're not doing their job.
I think they need to come back to session. I'm really hopeful that they do.
Yeah.
Well, I know one side wants to come back.
I'm not hearing, I'm
Is-
kinda not hearing on,
Gotta be the Republicans.
Talk to Mr. Fredette about who walked out,
Yeah.
you know, is one side walked out
so my
without
goal,
finishing business.
my goal,
Is,
call a session.
right.
See who
You know,
comes back.
it's a shame, you know, you finish your business before
it's
you go
terrible.
home,
Terrible.
you know,
Absolutely.
so.
It's just a fracture, and it's really handcuffing people. So what we're told at this point is that our funding will be based on that preliminary subsidy report that we got back in February, the ED 279. I have no guarantee about that.
No.
We're talking to voters on Tuesday about something that could
Drop our rate.
differently. I have no, all I can say is, well,
It's just like,
we're
all you
told
can say is there are a bunch of morons in the
we're going to get
All you
that,
can say.
that it will be based on that funding.
Oh, my God.
But I also look at statute and I know who's supposed to make the decision, so ceding that to another body is, why?
Governor
Why are
for
we
it?
doing that?
Is the governor good with it, the bill?
I think there's been so much discussion about the two parties and the dysfunction and the dissatisfaction with each other that it's been focused right there, and I really haven't heard where the commissioner or the governor stand on, so what's in LD 1869 and what are you gonna approve or not approve?
We have a meeting coming up on June 21st, correct? The three-town
Yes,
meeting.
And I have that listed as 6:30. That, Sarah, June 21st. I sent Steve an email, was that today?
Yeah, it was today.
Today was a long month, just so you know. So I sent Steve an email saying that, please, because Dwayne Moran contacted me from North Berwick and asked about the agenda. And what I'm saying is, central office is putting together an opportunity for 4 boards to sit and have communication. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to provide a space and a time, and
And to
some
moderate.
snacks. And moderate as needed, and just say to people, what things would you like to see on the agenda? So if you have things, please send them to me. I will route them to each of the towns, and we'll build the agenda based off the feedback I get.
One of the things, you know, I want to thank you for sending the reports out on the debt service that I requested.
Yep.
There was a lot of information there. One of the things I noticed is that it appears like, you know, on average, every couple of years, we're spending close to $1 million on computers for the students one way or another, whether it's the new books or the software or anything.
Yeah, so
No.
there's offset to some of that.
I was gonna say,
Because
this is-
the MILTI, the Maine Laptop Technology Initiative, what they give us per seat for 7th and 8th graders, because we're not using that little vegetable, the
Right,
Apple
the
products.
Apples, you're
since
using the
we're not
Chromebooks
using that,
now?
I just feel like the state is just so wrapped up with that they might as well turn into an agricultural business. But I prefer the Chromebooks that we're using because we can.
They were cheaper,
I
correct?
can replace a Chromebook cheaper than Apple can replace a screen.
Right.
Wow.
And I
And
can
you
get
got
as good a life.
$50,000 from Samsung this time.
50 grand?
Yeah.
50 grand?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So that
And
helps.
thanks to Yu Hung and her students. You wouldn't
Absolutely.
happen to know any of those, would you,
No,
Ed? And Berwick water's gonna taste better.
I hope so, yeah.
Well,
That's good.
you know,
So these companies won't just give them to school systems? They won't give 'em- I mean, you
no,
know, I
it's-
don't understand that, because that's like a
I'd kind of like to see some of them,
bit
we look
nothing.
for opportunities to see if somebody wants to tackle us and say, you're a model for what's going on in the country. I was talking with a candidate for a position from Revere, Mass. And we were talking about technology, how do you use it in the classroom? He said, I have a smart board, and that's it. There's 6 cabinets of computers for the entire school of 700 kids. What do you do? He said, I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't get those cards because you can never get them. I'm just listening to it, and it's like a 2-hour drive from here, and that's the way that's going. So we definitely have some opportunities and some things that other people don't get a chance to experience. I talked with some folks from Oregon who this year who visited our school and for a different reason and were taken by the technology and kids' use of it. So we continuously look for opportunities to see if somebody out there wants to say, this is how you can do it, but no takers right now. I appreciate your time tonight, you folks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
thank you. A lot of information.
Maybe we can talk to those Chinese, the Chinese group from Hawaii, that telecommunications group we banned.
Oh.
I got a good deal on them. Clearance sale at Best
Yeah,
Buy.
you gotta learn Chinese and Russian though.
No, they're being sold here.
All right.
Wow.
A lot of information there.
It sounds to me like our enrollment's up, not down, after that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is, unfinished business. The nominations to the Maine Municipal Association Legislative Policy Committee. We had brought that up before. If anybody wants to volunteer for that, go right ahead. Let's see. Please submit nominations by June 13th. So, if anybody wants that. The other piece of unfinished business that's not on the agenda is we voted on the manager's contract, but we never did sign it. And after we had voted on it, and had gone back to Lisa through the Human Resources and checked everything out. There were a couple things that she thought that we might consider changing. One was the salary. We agreed that, the town manager's salary, any increase would be based on the CPI. And she brought up the possibility of sometimes the CPI is a negative number. And, did we really want to, give the town manager a decrease in salary?
I don't think so.
And she suggested that be, because it's something we had talked about before, we brought up the CPI of the CPI or 2% annually, whichever is higher. I don't know how you feel about that. We haven't had a chance to discuss it or anything. But that's one issue that, she brought up.
I don't object to that.
I don't either. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think 2% or whichever is highest sounds
Right,
fine with me.
CPI with that.
I'll make a motion then that we amend our vote.
Was that the only thing that was,
Well, the other part is under the termination, the employee shall receive compensation and benefits as described in the agreement addendum for a period of 6 months from the date of the board's resolution. That is if we terminate him without cause, We have just cause, we can get rid of him at any time. Is one of the things that she had talked about, and I don't know if she had talked to you, Steve, about it. I feel she should. If a mutual agreement can be reached by the board and the employee can continue in his capacity as town manager up to 3 months period following the resolution in accordance with the terms of the original agreement. So if we decide to terminate him and give him the 6 months, the time frame of 6 months, if we can agree, if there's an agreement with him, he would continue on for a 3 month period, as a grace period while we, straighten things out.
Yeah. It prevents you from having to hire an intern
instantly?
instantly. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually dealt with that enough.
You've been through that.
Yeah,
All
on
right,
the
so
interim.
let's sign it. I'm in agreement with that.
So,
Accept it.
well, I'll make a motion then that we adopt these changes to the town manager's contract that we voted on last month. I don't remember the date.
It was your last meeting in May.
Yeah, so it would have been the 15th. So I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to the town manager's report.
You received a letter, actually each one got a copy. We have 2 openings for the sewer board. Priscilla and Daniel Doucette have decided not. They've served long enough and they are not asking to be reappointed. So we have 2 openings. If anybody out in the public would like to serve on the sewer board, it's once a month, one day a month, and lasts an hour or so, I guess. And
Most of them I heard.
yeah, most of them. Be a good opportunity for somebody who's interested in serving in some capacity.
And we really like having people that have some background in that type of business. It really helps to have those people to give us, direction about where we're going, because I don't know anything about a sewer.
But if anybody's interested, they can contact me here at the town office, or they can contact Jay Wheeler, who's the administrator at the sewer district, and then he will put forth those names as well. We will be voting at our next meeting, June 19th, because the terms are up at the end of June. So if anybody's interested, please let us know. And again, thank Priscilla and
Danny.
Doucette for many years of service. I don't know how long it was, but
Well, Priscilla's been there, she's been there for decades, if you count her previous positions there.
wow.
So.
I also, don't forget to vote next Tuesday. School budget referendum questions there, as well as the town warrant. Hokie talked about the transfer station. Just an update that the MDOT is starting to do work on 236, and they're preparing, they're gonna do some paving, what they call a skinny mix. It's not a full pave, but it's
From South Berwick to Berwick,
to Powder House Road, yeah.
they started working there?
They're getting ready to, from what I've heard.
It must be ghosts.
Yeah, they are. And Route 9, they're gonna be doing the culvert on Route 9 down by Sanford Road. That's a pretty good sized culvert they'll be replacing. I was hoping they'd do a little bit more than just skinny mix, but that's what they're doing. The MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding with Comcast was finalized today with our attorney, and we're sending it off to them. That's for the extension of Diamond Hill and Little River Road. We are under the understanding, according to Comcast Brian Christensen, that they've already started that process before that, because we had agreed upon that. So hopefully it's a little bit quicker than they had anticipated. They had 18 months, but we'll hopefully get it done quicker. Also, prime tanning, I talked to our attorney today. From our end, we are all set on closing documents, and one of the attorneys that works with Mary Costigan, who's heading that up, is working with Roger Clement and one of the staff people from Vero Dana, trying to get it all finalized. Maureen has done an excellent job keeping track, as she does with all our finances, on everything. She has pulled out the funding on the 2 sites that aren't completed yet. So that won't, the taxes and any of that money will be accounted for when we finish that and prepare to turn it over. But if, with taxes, a rough estimate on taxes, by the time we're done, they'll still owe us $28,000.
So
And
there's still nothing we can do to prod him in any direction to get his ass in gear?
according to Mary Costigan, no. But he's coming. We were scheduled to close and transfer the property on June 21st, which is a Thursday. That's week, you have a meeting here. I have repeated that we are requesting Mr. Kahaya to come to a meeting here and meet with Board of Selectmen. And I haven't got a no on that, so I'm hoping, didn't hear from Roger, but Mary's hoping that this will all take place.
If he can't come, then we don't close.
Right, exactly.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
Yep.
So you put it off until he could show up here for, 2 or 3 hours worth
Yep,
of
I'll
questions.
make sure I tell them that. Again, June 26th, we have a meeting scheduled for the planning board. Everybody's kind of getting back to me. Much like what we had before, that's the last Tuesday of June. I thought we had a good
Won't be here, will you?
good meeting, very thoughtful. There's a lot of stuff coming up that we need to talk about with the marijuana referendum. We won't have any regulations until April of next year, but we can get everything else in place. You, as
What do you mean
a,
we won't have any regulations? So what we were talking about the other day, about ventilation and
that's already in place, but we're
who is
just a
going after
recreation.
that?
The state will have to go after that.
We don't have any rule in it?
That's all state controlled, from what I
So
understand.
who do you call to get it? Because,
I'll talk to Mark,
hey,
code enforcement.
one lady called me today, or yesterday, about, her window was open. You could smell it.
Is this on Route 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some stuff coming up that we're meeting, we have to talk to the planning board about that particular site, and we have to address the smell.
Coming out, when she's
So-
blowing cool there in the window.
Yep.
I need to talk to Dave Andresen and Paul Bovair, chair and vice chair. He's coming before the, if he gets his request in for a variance on a building that he had started as a storage building, but now he's got an opportunity to use it as a production facility and rent out that space to people who make brownies and cookies and all kinds of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, beautiful.
But he's gonna have to get
Where's
Vickery.
a change of use.
On Route 9.
So,
That's gonna go before the planning board?
yep, yes it does. Otherwise, he can't do it. That's something that we need to talk about some more at the meeting. So
I won't be at that meeting, I'll be out of
Yeah.
town.
you're out of town.
Yeah.
What meeting is that?
It'll be the
There's one
same
on
kind
the
of meeting we
26th.
had with the planning board 2 weeks
Okay,
ago.
okay, yep.
I really encourage everybody to try to be here because
So who is calling the state from the town of Berwick to report it?
code enforcement.
So it's been done?
No,
Why?
not that I know of. I don't know. I have
You'll
to.
take a note for
I
that
will
and find
make
out?
a note of that, and we'll take care of it tomorrow.
Okay,
The way it was explained to me is that that facility was approved before the requirements for air filtration went in. So that's why you smell it there
were those approved to grow marijuana or just approved for buildings to begin with?
for medical marijuana.
So now, because you got it in before, it doesn't matter. They build coal plants worth $1 billion and they make them do scrubbers for another
Oh,
half
I
a
know.
billion.
I
So now
agree,
we gotta do
agree.
something.
I will
agree.
talk
I'm
to
not
the
listening
state.
to comments all the time either, for people calling me.
Yeah, I get it all the time. We're gonna.
Gotta
We
stop.
talked to him briefly about it this week when we sat down with him. I will get on this tomorrow and find out who we have to talk to and if there's anything we can do. If Mark
Yeah,
isn't.
it's gotta,
Is
it's
the
gotta.
planning board aware of all of this and the
Oh, yeah.
problems that, okay, so as long as,
Oh, yeah, they're hearing about it too.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
as long as.
Yeah.
See, I thought that all got set in a year ago. Was that odor control and all that stuff.
I
So he must have given.
I don't know what he has in his place specifically. That would be something that we'd have to check on.
I was told that the other one that's going in on Route 4, where Billy Reno had his shop, is, I heard that they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for a filtration plant because they're required to, you know. And I'm not sure of the specifics. I was told that that one on Route 9, Raymond Place, I guess they call it, was approved before the requirements for the filtration went in. So it's a matter of, you know, finding a way to make and put it in retroactive. But yeah, I agree. You know, you go drive by there and
He's
you know, a
building
mile in either way.
He's building a building now that called for a garage to go in,
Yeah.
and he's building a building for manufacturing. It's not even the right size building.
Well, it started for a garage. That's
Right, but
what
the
he, that's
building's
what he got
bigger
his
than what it
permit
called
for.
for, right?
Excuse me?
Is the building bigger than what the prints called for?
No, that was a building that came before Joe Roselli
Oh, for a garage.
for a garage.
Yeah, well, then you know
Trying
what?
to change
We ain't
the-
gonna give it to him.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
If he wants to upgrade and do his pollution control, then that's fine, but.
it's an angle we can take. That's all I have for my report. Any questions?
under selectmen's communication, is, let's see, got a letter for, I don't know where I put that one now, for the York County budget. Oh, here we go. Is, public hearing on the 2019 proposed budget for the York County of York will be held on Wednesday, June 13th at 6:30 PM in the Emergency Management Agency Room of the York County Government Building located at 149 Jordan Springs Road in Alfred. Is, let's see, the proposed budget contains an increase of $370,231 above the fiscal year 2018, which is an increase of 1.88%. So again, the hearing is Wednesday, June 13th at 6:30 in Alfred. And we also received a letter from Village Green Ventures, which I just read now is.
Just came today.
It's a biodigesting firm that takes sewage, I guess, and mixes it with other things to make a slurry to put on fields, and he has a field in Berwick that they want to put it on.
They have a list of farmers who,
See that, Tom?
they have a list of farmers throughout the state. I think there's,
But it
10
can't
to
go on,
50.
it can't get on vegetable crop,
no, it's strictly hayfields.
hay fields or trees.
Yeah. But the report I have is this thick, and it talks about all the heavy metals that it has coming. It's all, according to the report, it's all within the DEP and EPA guidelines of, but
Supposed to be.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Is,
Unless you go out and check it, you're not gonna know. But anyway, part of the requirement or request that you can make is to have a public hearing. And I encourage us to do that before, if it gets approved. Now, the farm, it says, is John Tibbetts, but we don't have a John Tibbetts in town that owns farm that we know of.
Blackberry Hill?
well, those
That's
are-
the only thing I could think
yeah,
of.
but that's not John, none of them are John.
So I don't know where
It's the
that,
only fields I can think of. Well, there's more, but, oh, wait a minute.
but the farmer has to actually apply for it to be done. And then he submits an application, then we have the right to have a public hearing, which I think we should.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it should be plowed in after it's applied too.
Yeah.
Plowed in, harrowed. Can't let it sit there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's what I
I,
think.
you know, I think that, yeah, we should definitely have a public hearing, you know, hear about this and,
We ought to get the test back on what that stuff is.
Oh, I have a whole, Wright Pierce headed up the whole
Yeah.
research and stuff, and I have it, if anybody wants copies of what this is, it's quite a thick thing, but I can give you the testing results of what is in it,
so,
so.
yeah, tell them that we do want a public
Yeah,
hearing.
absolutely.
That's all I have for communications. That brings us to accounts payable. Quite a few of them this week.
Why, can I possibly leave? I have to get up early tomorrow morning, head into the city for some work. Is it possible to,
Yeah,
You got- you got a
be
quorum.
excused, yeah, we have a quorum.
you
There's
don't
no-
mind?
No, no, we're glad to have you
I
leave.
gotta get into the city.
I understand,
Start a job site. I got.
yeah, I understand, 3 o'clock comes early, doesn't it?
Yes. Especially when you're 63. When you were 33.
Have a good night, Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Account payable, 1846 from May 17th, 2018 for the amount of $67,013.03. Water warrant, 0846 from May 17th, 2018 for the amount of $2,486. Payroll warrant, 1847 from May 24th, 2017 for the amount of $53,294.78. Account payable warrant 1847 from May 24th, 2018 for the amount of $116,241.35. Water warrant 0847 from May 24th, 2018 for the amount of $5,008.09. Payroll warrant 1848 from May 31st, 2018 for the amount of $50,919.81. AP warrant 1848 from May 31st, 2018 for the amount of $5,092.73. Water warrant 0848 from May 31st, 2018 for the amount of $1,184.74. And payroll warrant 1849 for June 7th, 2018 for the amount of $60,900.28. I make a motion, we pay our bills.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. That brings us to new business. Year-end appropriation transfers.
This is something that we do every year. Just this month, we close out the books, and we have several departments that are over budget. Public Works salt account, because we had such a icy winter, the salt budget's over by $38,829. Also, the legal budget is currently $14,034 over. We had quite a few things that we didn't have a lot of control over. And on the legal end, we're anticipating it to be a little bit higher because we still have to do the closing and finish up all the other stuff on Prime. So that's another area. And Town Hall building maintenance this year, we had quite a bit of issues with that. The heating system burst twice, the pipes burst, and so that cost us more than we anticipated in other areas of the building. Just to give you some information, I called to try to get a price from Eastern Mechanical to come back out and finish replacing. They recommend we replace a lot of the old cast iron pipes here. They can't even come out and give me an estimate until the fall. They're so busy and they're so short-handed. So hopefully, but if we did have a problem with one of the pipes burst, they could get out here and help replace it. But that's things we need to address, which I'll talk more about in September. So Maureen has put together some areas that we had savings in, which was a lot of it was because we didn't replace people right away, like the planner, and we had some police insurance. We didn't hire somebody for almost a year to replace some people, so we've had some money in planning retirement and full-time wages. Transfer station hauling, we had some savings because our costs were down. And then I like to say that I thank everybody who's recycling because that MSW tonnage is down, so it's actually working. And that includes transfer station hauling. So she's got 58,000 out of those 5 accounts to offset the 58,000 from where we're over. So
I just want to mention that the town hall building maintenance, the anticipated cost includes the cost of installing security cameras in the lobby.
Yep.
We decided that, since we had some savings in other departments and we had a chance to do it, it'd be best to have it done sooner rather than later.
Right.
And so,
So I would move we accept the recommendation for transfer funds from the mentioned accounts to compensate for the over budgeting of the 3 other departments as presented.
I'll second.
any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. I'm really surprised Mark didn't stay for the second one here.
paving bid.
The paving bid, yes.
The paving bids, we sent out 3 regular people like Libby Scott, Pike, and Belanger. Mr. Belanger didn't send in a bid this year, but Libby Scott did, and Pike did. My recommendation and Robert's recommendation is you go with Libby Scott. The unit cost was quite a bit less than Pike. Makes you wonder if Pike actually wanted the bid, but our recommendation is to go with Libby Scott, and we're still working on them trying to fit what we have available for funding to what we have to have done. So we aren't going to get everything done that we would like.
What do we have for funding? Is the
340,000, which doesn't go very far in the paving world.
No.
So I think we'll get Diamond Hill done, and we'll get Wentworth done. That will leave Beach Ridge and Pond Road, of the roads that we rebuilt, to get taken care of next year. But I'll be presenting to you, I think I've given you in my report several times, we're revamping the whole capital improvement budget for some of the things in this building, as well as paving and other areas. And next year we'll see a little bit less money. I don't think we're going to be buying equipment next year. I think we've done enough lately. So we're in good shape.
I would move we award the paving project bid to Libby Scott in the amount of $225,823 as presented, which is the lower bid.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Can I just, that's not, this was just an example that the code officer put, if they did Diamond Hill Road at the price per ton, the unit cost, it would be that 225,823, that's not the total bid.
No, we're just going to bid, we're coming in, we won't spend any more than $340,000 because we don't have any more money than that. what you're voting on is Libby Scott came in with a unit cost of less money than Pike, so his
Not
bid
to
will,
exceed the 340.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I would modify my motion to incorporate not to exceed
$40,000.
$340,000.
I'll agree. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I would have sold us short. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Patty.
And we have the agreement between Berwick and Our Theater Company for the use of the town hall space, the auditorium space.
This town hall use policy or contract agreement is pretty much follows our regular policy that we have for using people who want to use the hall. The difference is, one, we're charging more money to have them in there, and they're there for they're getting a lot of bang for their buck from what we can see. But it also requires them to move their equipment or their stage stuff out of the building, so they can't store it here. So a lot of that, Patty's a little worried about what we have in there before Tuesday. But we're sitting down with them on Thursday to hammer out this, they've all agreed, everybody's agreed to this. So we just have to sign it, and you have to authorize me to sign it on behalf of the town. But it's a good contract, and it's a one-year contract. We're only doing it a year at a time because this is kind of new to us, to having a big group in there. We felt we should see how it goes. So.
Is there an out? I didn't see an out clause in this. You feel that there needs to be one, or did I miss it?
I didn't see anything like that, no.
I thought there was one here. Space.
No, I don't see anything that,
That would be my only recommendation. Just
Okay, we
you
can
know,
put
for
one
We
in
have to
there.
cover ourselves where it's a year.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yep.
Sometimes things don't work out. I'd like us
Oh,
to.
yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Yep. I'll make sure there's one in there. Because I know we have one in the contract with the Sanford, so we can definitely put one in here, so.
I'd move that we authorize the town manager to sign a contract for the Berwick Town Hall and Our Theater Company with, or to be included with an out clause.
I'll second.
any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. All right, and that brings us to the agreement between the City of Sanford and Town of Berwick for dispatch service.
This is, finally worked out the contract. Everybody has agreed that we do a 10-year contract. There is an out clause here. So
That's where I saw it.
we've gone ahead and been ordering equipment, and Two-Way has been working on getting all the licenses updated so we can have them come out of the Sanford. It's actually been a much smoother process than I expected. I haven't had that kind of smoothness go with dispatch, considering we tried it with Kittery my first year here, and I did it before in Androscoggin County, and it was a nightmare. I think Sanford and the town manager and their people in the dispatch center were easy to work with. Our police chiefs and some of his staff were there, along with with Dennis, our fire chief, and everybody had open discussions and their concerns, and then we got the technical people together, and we kind of skipped that meeting because we didn't understand what they were talking about most of the time. So it's been a good process. Two-Way has been great they've always been good to work with. And Southern Maine Communications, I guess is the other group out of Sanford that, actually South Berwick is meeting today with the water department, their water department, to get a micro dish up on the tower, and ours is all taken care of, but it's been, we hopefully will be live July 1. If we're not, the E911 will be going to Sanford as of July 1, and we'll get that up and running as soon as we can, but the target is July 1. And I got notified today that all the equipment's coming in, and he's expecting most of it in within the next week, so.
Seems almost anticlimactic after all these years of talking
No,
about dispatch, a simple 4-page
Okay.
contract.
I'll tell you, the public safety people are very pleased that we finally have a contract that they can anticipate what the costs are gonna be. And the agreement is that we have people sitting on a committee that will meet quarterly if they need to, or biannually. So they have an input into how is this working.
Right.
You know, it's a good process, I think. So, and like I think I put in my report to you, this comes at an interesting time because the Maine State Police are closing their dispatch in Gray, and part of the reason is they can't fill positions. They have 18 dispatchers in Gray, and they only have 11 filled, and they have not been able to fill the others, and that is an issue. You know, so Sanford has filled the positions already with anticipation in coming. Dispatchers from South Berwick have had the opportunity to meet with them and interview, so I'm not sure how many are going, but it worked out well, I think, so far. So I'm encouraged.
Any more questions of the town manager? Ken, step to the microphone.
Ken Rain, Sydney Drive. I know we discussed this before, the dispatch service, but I thought we were staying with South Berwick.
South Berwick is moving with us.
Oh, they're gonna move too?
They're moving too. It was all done together. They are having trouble getting dispatchers, and they decided to get out of the business, and we've been, South Berwick, Perry and I have been working quite closely on this.
But we were using South Berwick.
Yeah, we've been using South Berwick for quite a few years.
For a long time.
20 plus.
Yeah.
It's been a good relationship, but what's happening is it's like throughout every industry in the state of Maine, finding people to work is becoming very
Just
difficult.
public service in general.
Yeah.
There's not just public services
It's,
everywhere around
everywhere.
here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah, I guess South Berwick having a hard time filling the dispatch, and sometimes their officers were actually filling
Yeah,
in
the
for
police were.
dispatch.
Plus the state is handing down a new protocol for police and fire emergency. So if somebody calls in with an emergency on a police or fire, that dispatcher has to stay on the phone or on the dispatch with that until that is completely done.
Continuity, yeah.
So that really eats up bodies pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Thank you.
not a problem. I'll make a motion that we authorize the town manager to sign the agreement between the city of Sanford and town of Berwick for dispatch services.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? And, you know, as you said, having a 10-year contract really makes it a lot easier for everybody.
Oh, it does.
Now we can
Yeah.
anticipate.
And I like the fact, one of the things that we had done in Androscoggin County is that everybody who participates with getting dispatch services has representation to sit down and talk about how it's going and
Right.
make sure it works right.
Absolutely.
Yep, it's a good process.
All right. We have a couple quitclaim deeds.
Yep.
These are for properties that the town of Berwick had entered into an agreement with the landowners to pay their back taxes on a extended period, and these people have paid off their debt is, the first parcel is map R068, lot 026022. Is all the money has been paid, is the lien has been taken care of. I will make a motion that we accept the quitclaim deed for map 068, lot 026022.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. And these must be in black ink. You got black ink?
Yeah, I'm checking.
And the second one is for a parcel out on Durant Road. It's map 040, lot 007. This has also been paid to date, and all the liens have been taken off it. So I will make a motion that we accept this quitclaim deed for 040, lot 007.
Second your motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. We have no abatements or supplements. Is a second public comment. If anybody from the public has a comment, please step to the podium, state your name, and address everything through the chair, please.
Hi, my name is Bruce Flaherty. I'm with the Spirit of America Volunteer Recognition Program, and had something that I had sent something, emailed something similar to your town. I don't know to whom I should. This is a program. What it involves is selecting a person, project, or group that the municipality chooses to honor for outstanding community service. And what happens is, and first of all, before I forget it, so far this year that I'm aware of, as of this moment, over 120 towns have already picked recipients, 122. And this is something that Steve has had experience with in Lisbon.
In Lisbon, yeah.
And as I say, the program is relatively new to most towns in York County. Hasn't been here that many years. What happens is selection is made. What's really nice is if it's the one to whom the annual town report is dedicated. It doesn't have to be, well, I'm thinking and talking. Was the report dedicated this year to?
Yeah, but there's a complication there. We'll discuss that later.
Okay, okay. The thing I was going to mention is in a number of cases, communities have chosen deceased people. And so it's happened very frequently, so that need not be an impediment at all. There'd be no fee or anything that you have to pay to get involved in this. And I think I started mentioning, we're talking about York County, the budget. The recipients throughout the county have been honored at a ceremony hosted by the county officials. The commissioners, the county manager Greg Zinser, Kathy Dumont, all of them are 1,000,000% behind this. They love doing it. And it's an opportunity to give a recognition on the local level for outstanding community service. So far this year that I'm aware of, in York County, the towns of Cornish, Elliott, Lyman, Newfield, North Berwick, Old Orchard Beach, Parsonsfield have already picked recipients. This last week was in Acton, Shapley, Buxton, Hollis, they're all very definitely interested in this. And tonight, before coming over here, I was with the visiting Wells and a gun court, talked with officials there. There's interest definitely too. So it's a great program. Steve, any comments from your experience with it? Your town has stayed right with it every year, picking recipients.
It's a good program. It's, people get excited when they get, it just appreciates the people who do so much behind the scenes sometimes that don't get recognized. So it's a good program.
Thanks, Steve. The deadline on this is June 30th. And last year, I guess I thought that you were going to be picking a recipient, but apparently
Slipped our minds.
it happens. So don't
We
worry
had a
about
hard
it.
time.
So the hope might be that maybe at your next meeting or something, if you could, you know, it's up to you.
We can do that.
I got a
Beautiful.
couple, I got a couple people in mind.
Good.
Beautiful. Okay, then, so sometime later this month, I should contact you, Steve, or you
Yes,
get back
yep.
to me?
I'll put together the paperwork for them. I still have that, and we'll present it to them on the 19th. So,
You present to the,
the board.
beautiful.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you much for your
Thank you
interest.
for coming.
Thank you.
No, thank
My
you.
pleasure, thanks. Yep. And if, may I use the facility?
Oh,
Right.
go right ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
Ryan?
Ryan was in them. Any other public comment? I'm gonna say a couple things, seeing Mr. Sincarter, Tony Sincarter walked in, reminded me that, the Legion had their car show on Sunday, and it was a fantastic time. Is the amount of time that these guys put into it, and the women, is, Legion, the auxiliary, everybody, it really shows how much commitment there has been in Berwick. And it really, shines a good light on Berwick. It was over 130 cars this year. As I was down here a couple times that day, BCTV was doing filming. Unfortunately, the live feed didn't work out the way we had hoped, but we're still working on the bugs from that. But I think Andy Buckman and the rest of the guys really deserve recognition for that, because it's a fantastic time. The other thing I want to talk about is Selectman Ed Gannier is leaving us. He's served his time. He's getting off on good behavior. Ed sat through some really difficult times in Berwick, but he stuck with it. A real commitment to his character. And I appreciate everything you've done, Ed, and it's been a pleasure serving with you.
Thank you.
There's always a write-in. I'm just throwing that out there to everybody. Write-in.
Yeah, we have 2 selectmen's positions open and only 1 person turned in papers, so we either have 4 members of the board or somebody gets written in. But I won't go there. So, any other comments? We have no executive session. Other business and non-agenda items? Leaves 1 motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.